to show you how to download your brushes and your new style presets that you got with your round bokeh brushes. First thing first, we're going to go to our download folder, and you'll see the compressed file here. If you double click on it, it will expand into this open file here. And the first thing you're going to want to do is add your brushes to your Photoshop. On a Mac, you can just double click on it and it will add them to the bottom of your brushes here. If it gives you an error message, which sometimes it does, especially on older versions of Photoshop, just hit OK and then come in here and check, because usually the brushes are there regardless of whether or not you get that error. If they're not there, you can always come to this little gear and go to import brushes, and then you'll go to your downloads folder and go in here and click on the brush file, and that'll work. So either way, that'll get you your brushes in your Photoshop. So the next part that we're going to do is we're going to also load the style presets that I made for you. These are important because they are the only way that the bright brush sets will work and look the way that they're supposed to. So it's super easy. You have your adjustments panel over here on the right hand side. Mine has the libraries tab back there. If yours doesn't show the libraries tab, you can always go up to your window menu, come down and click on libraries, and it'll pop up. The next thing you want to do is hit, not create, sorry. You want to go to this menu up in the right corner of the library tab, import library, select library, and then you're going to go again to your downloads folder, go to that file that I sent you, and click on this CBP styles with the weird ending, hit open, and then hit import. And that's going to import those. Hit OK. And now you see we have two style presets. Those are important later. We're going to start first with the ones that don't require the presets, okay? So I have a new layer here. I'm going to create a new one just so you can see this little plus button in the box. That's new layer. And then you come up here to the blending mode for the layer, and I like to switch between soft light and hard light. Soft light is going to give you a real faint look for a nice subtle effect. Hard light will be brighter and more in your face. And with the lighter backdrop, I like the hard light because you kind of need it to be brighter to show up against the white. Sometimes on a darker backdrop, you would prefer the soft light. But really it's a preference thing, and you can switch between the two. So I'm going to hit hard light, and we're going to come over here to the brushes we just downloaded, and I'm going to click on the very first one, CBP Round Bokeh Warm White Standard. Standard just means that it's going to give you a decent amount of bokeh without overcrowding. So I just use my braces keys here to resize my brush, or you can come up to your little slider here in the menu, but shortcuts are way better. I've sized it to the size of the existing bokeh. If you don't have existing bokeh, that doesn't really matter. You can size it to whatever you like. But after you get it to the size you want, you're just going to literally paint. I'm just clicking, holding, and dragging. I mean, I can go as much as I want. If I want to layer up, that's a lot, right? Or just a swipe gives you nice subtle bokeh. Okay, so we've got that, and then we have the amber version of each of these brushes. Has a nice warm tone to it, which is typically better for darker backdrops, but sometimes even on a light backdrop, it'll show up like a little more warm toned, and you would use these ones for that. So I'll show you what that looks like here. Again, I don't love the amber on the white backdrop. I think it looks unnatural. It looks all right in the shadows, but not so much in the light areas. So we're gonna nix that and save that for a different photo. Just to show you the difference between the brushes, this is the warm white dense, okay? So this one is going to really lay it on thick with one swipe. No, I don't have to continually swipe to layer them up. If I want a lot of lights around her, this is the one that I'm going to use. All right, let's back this up so we don't get too cluttered. Again, we've got the amber version of that one, and then we have just a bit warm white, small, okay? This one is for when you just want to sprinkle a little bit of light around, but don't necessarily need like clusters. So we would just click and hold and pull, and you see you just get a spattering of light. If you just want them one click at a time, you can do that, but it's nice and randomized so that it looks natural. And we have the amber version of that one as well. And then we have the just a bit warm white big. And big, you can see, is already set to big. That's for if you want just a couple of little bits in the foreground to give it a little bit of depth. That's what those ones are for. All of these can be resized. So if you think this is too big and you just want a little bit smaller for the foreground, you can just resize your brush. It is meant to scatter the lights, so don't fret if it doesn't click exactly where you click your button. So like if I click right here, you see it moved a little bit to the right. That is on purpose, just to keep everything random and natural, organic. Let's see. So yeah, that's all of those. We've got the amber version of the big bokeh, and now we're getting into the bright lights. All of these below here are all labeled with the bright label. Those are gonna require a little extra finesse, okay? We'll start with this one, warm and bright lights, dense, okay? We're gonna make a new layer. And I'm actually going to copy my mask from down here that I created earlier because I want to make sure that what we paint on right now doesn't go on the baby. I'm going to turn off the old photos, or old layer, and I am going to plug in my computer because of course it wants to die in the middle of my video. There we go. All right. So we've got this new layer, and we're going to be using the warm and bright lights, okay? So now we come over here, you see our layer presets. This one says very bright style, and this one says warm and bright style. So of course, with the warm and bright lights, we want to use the warm and bright style. So you'll click on that. And as you can see, it added effects layers. Effects to your layer, and that is going to give us the effect that we want with this brush. Again, this one is a little bit better for darker backdrops. It's not necessarily geared towards this white backdrop, but I'll show you that in a bit. So I'm just gonna paint this on so you can see how it works. This is really yellow. Again, would look much better on a dark backdrop. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to show you the one that would work properly for this. Again, I'm going to copy that mask and add it up there. I'm copying the mask by holding command and just one click on the one that I have. And then when I come up here and click on the mask, it automatically creates that mask again, just in case. That's a little Photoshop lesson for you. All right, so now we've got the singles, which work the same way as the singles from above. And then these ones are a little wonky shaped, right? They're not exactly fully round. Sometimes the wonky shape just looks better. but we have the full round if you like it. So we're gonna go to very bright lights. And again, as I mentioned before, you do the layer style that coincides with the name of your brush. All of these down here are all very bright lights. Very bright lights go with the very bright style. So on your new layer, we're gonna click on the very bright style, and again, you see it's added these effects down here. Those are essential to creating the look we want. Without those, these are just gonna kind of look silly. All right, so now I've sized my brush to what I would like, and then I'm just gonna paint them on, maybe. There it goes. My computer's being slow because it's hot. I swear it's not always this slow. It's because I almost let my computer die. But as you can see, that's like so bright, right? We've got the singles, so like if you didn't want so much of the bright lights, you can always scatter around these little singles. I think my computer is just old and dumpy, which is why we're getting these little weird shapes, but don't worry about that. Those do not stay. If they do, if you ever get those weird shapes and you hit the flatten option, and if they stay, all you have to do is Command Z to back it up and then re-flatten again. And those weird shapes will go away. That's been a problem with Photoshop for like, gosh, the last year. Anywho, so now you can see we've got these super bright lights. Without these effects on here, this very bright light effect that we added, this is what they would look like. Real bad, right? Like that's not pretty. That doesn't really go. So this is why it's very, very important to add the proper style effects. If I were to switch it to the warm bright effect, again, it's not gonna look good. That's not what this brush is made for. This brush is a bright light, so this needs the bright style. Okay, so let me move on to another image. We're gonna go to a different one. We already did light. So this one already has bright lights in it. And I'm gonna show you again. With the bright lights, we made a new layer. We want a bright light setting. So the style is added there. And we're gonna just come in here. We've got our bright light single. And we're just going to paint those on. And my computer is being slow, but here we go. So those are very bright, right? And then we might actually want to layer up some not so bright ones. So we'll go to the standard ones, make a new layer. When you're switching between the bright lights and the regular bokeh brushes, you definitely want a new layer because they need a different blend mode. So I went to hard light for this new one. We're using the round bokeh warm white standard. And my computer is so slow. I'm gonna just size that down just a little bit. And then we mix those in together. And now it looks like we've just added more of the existing lights. So I love the idea of mixing the bright lights with the normal bokeh lights, because as you can see, it's not always all super bright lights. It's not always all nice warm lights. So a little blend of both can really work very well. Let's go to another image. Okay, here's another one. This one will be really good for just doing like a standard regular bokeh brush. It doesn't have to be standard. It can be really dense and full, or you can just add little random lights here and there. Standard's my favorite, which is why it's standard. So I'm gonna leave that there. We've got our layer that I've already masked before I started the video, and we're gonna set the blend mode to hard light. and come over here, and we're just gonna paint it on. Paint it on. Now, if we were to change that to soft light, you'll see it's very soft and picks up more of the color of the backdrop. So to get the actual light look, you'll want the hard light look here. We can try the bright light look here. I don't really know how it'll look. So let's go with very bright. This is all about choosing the things that work for each image. Not everything works for every image, and so there's plenty of options to choose from here. You just pick the one that works best for you. I'm going to go with warm and bright. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to do very bright. Very bright single, okay? And I've done the very bright style on this layer. And we're just going to add in a couple of those. Yeah, see, I think that those are too bright for this photo. And that's okay. We'll turn that off. And let's see what a warm bright looks like. And it's totally okay to play around. Here we go. Now we'll do big. There we go. Singles. And that's not all that different from what we already have there. So it did add some brightness, even in the dark areas, but I don't think it's necessary. So we did this all with one brush. All right, let's move on. This one, again, I've pre-masked. This one I know I've already played with, and I want to do the warm and bright. Okay, so we're gonna go up here to warm and bright lights. I've hit my warm and bright style, and we're gonna make sure we're on the layer, not on the mask. And we're just going to paint these in the background. Do a little bit more up here. All right, and then I'm gonna make a new layer. We're gonna set it to hard light, and I'm gonna go back in and choose my favorite brush, the warm white standard, and I'm gonna make it just a little bit bigger than those, and we're just gonna layer that up. Oh, you see it on his head? I forgot to add the mask. So let's just finish this. We're going to command click on the mask on that layer below, and then hit the mask, and we've got the same mask on this layer now. And I like that. I love that. I think that if you wanted, you can go in and make that soft light, so those are even more subtle, which is really pretty. I actually kind of like the soft light better for those bigger ones with the bright lights, so it gives it a little more depth. What other images do I have here? Oh, here's another one. All right, so we are going to create a new layer. These are warm and bright, so I'm going to go with warm and bright. Come over here, click on warm and bright lights. Let's go singles, and we will just paint them around. It's like they were there to begin with. I mean, would you ever even know that those weren't there? It's so good. And then if you really wanted to, you just go back up, and we'll get into our where's the warm bokeh big? Okay, we'll go here. We're gonna create hard light layer. I'm just going to add in a couple of little sprinkles. Another big one over here. Let's see, you can add that foreground in there. And then if you want to finish it off, you just add a little Gaussian blur. I think that's a little bit too much. I usually stick with like somewhere around 6 to 8. I think 6 looks natural for those. If they're smaller, then a smaller Gaussian blur would work. Gaussian blur is in the filter menu. I have a shortcut, which is how I got to it. And then you go to blur, Gaussian blur. You see, I made my shortcut Command B because I use it a lot. All right, there was one more photo, not that one. Hold on. Let me open one more photo to show you. Oh, this baby girl. Okay. So here we have those warm amber lights in the daytime, right? I said that those usually happen more often on the dark backdrops, but here we are, daytime, and we've got those warm lights showing. So I'm gonna go make a new layer, change the blend mode to hard light, and then I'm going to come in here to my round bokeh warm white standard. And again, I have these lights as reference points, but you don't have to have lights in your photos to create lights. I like to have a couple scattered in there just so that I have a reference for the sizing, because as your depth of field changes, the size of that bokeh changes. And so to keep it looking as natural as possible, you have to guess at what size would fit that depth. So again, that's all just personal preference, but if you have reference bokeh in the image, it does help. Very often people want to add more because there just wasn't enough, and this is a great way to do that. So we're on a new layer, hard light. We're using our, we want to go to amber. So round bokeh amber standard. And we're just going to paint those on. And I'll paint some over here. And as you can see, like, they blend, they blend perfectly. Like, can you even tell what was there and what wasn't? There you go. That's without the brush. That's with the brush. You cannot tell the difference. Like, it's amazing. I love it. Now, if you wanted it to be more subtle, again, you can go to soft light, and that just adds in that little touch. I'll turn that on and off. You see, and then this is hard light. And again, if you really wanted to, I'm going to zoom in so you can see the edges of this bokeh better. If you really wanted to finish it off, make it look as natural as possible, you just add that little bit of Gaussian blur. So 6.6 is a little too much. We want to just keep those edges from being super sharp. There, 3.9 I think does it. I'll turn it off so you can see there's the sharp edge, and then with the blur, just a little softer. And like, that's a pro tip. That is what is going to set your work apart and not look like you just slap something on top of your image. That works it right into the image. It's all pancaked together, nice and smooth. You can't tell the difference between what should be be there and what shouldn't be. So I know that's a lot of information, and I am happy to help you. If you have any questions or issues at all, reach out to me through the messaging on the Etsy shop. That way I know that it is a Photoshop specific question instead of things getting buried in my own business messages on Facebook, Instagram, or even my emails. Those get loaded with stuff. So if you message on Etsy, then I know it's Photoshop specific, and I will get to you as soon as possible. I hope that you love these brushes and the style presets that come along with it. and I would love to see what you do with them.